Here's my interactive notebook, decorated on the outside to reflect some of my favorite quotes and my favorite color, purple. I added tabs on the side so I could flip easily between units. Each tab has a little description on it to help me remember. So like the first one is acquisition, we have one for vocab, we have one for language development. Inside the front cover we have Costa's 3-story house and the table of contents. I chose to divide it up mostly by the unit, and then I also added sentence starters for classroom discussion. I think I'll flip back to that a lot, so I put it in its own little slot on the table of contents. These next couple pages were blank, so I taped in some of the pages that I thought would be useful from Costa and Bloom. And you can see that there. Just slid in here so they can open up, but don't take a lot of space if I'm not using them. These are some resources that came with the rubric that I chose. We have an interactive notebook thinking processes guide, and then AHA connections. Just to kind of help through the interactive notebook process. Here's my rubric. Let's see. I would say I'm about a 9. Probably not totally awesome, almost gross. Probably not at that point. But I did follow the requirements. I spent a lot of time reflecting, and I made sure to include all the components. My pages are numbered and the format is followed correctly. I chose this one partly because of the entertaining language, but also because it followed all the criteria that we were asked to include in our notebook, and it made sense to choose that. Go Unit 1. I'll flip through kind of quickly because we don't need to spend a lot of time on every single page. You can see I had a couple diagrams. The way that I think and the way that I process my notes, I do a lot better with an outline and organizational tools like numbers, bullets, and hierarchical designs. So that's usually how my notebook was organized. I did include a sticky note here because the appendix here had a really good resource. I didn't want to forget about that in the letters book. But you can see most of my work is following an outline pattern. So that's how I can best organize my notes. There are a couple of pages where my summary is here on a little sticky note, because I got to the very end of the page with my notes and didn't want to waste an entire page just for the summary, so I slapped it on there. See some of my questions that I asked. This is still in Unit 2. How do I integrate language objectives into my daily teaching? How do I determine what language objectives will be appropriate for my ELLs? That's what I was thinking about as I read this summary. You can see the coloring that I used throughout the notebook is mostly to highlight the subject titles so that I would be able to glance through quickly and see the important things. As I was coloring, I wanted to make sure it would be useful for me in the future. So when I'm flipping back and I go to my vocabulary section, I'll see, oh, here are my vocabulary activity ideas. And then the recommendations from the National Reading Panel, those things would stand out to me as things that I think I'll want to flip back to, effective strategies. This is the page that, that got its own spot in the table of contents. I really liked the language strategies for active classroom participation. Down here you can see I included making meaning sentence starters. Those are things that we use in our curriculum right now. I included it just as a resource in case we ever switch curriculum. But I really liked these because it goes at a deeper level for older students, but it also adds more detail for younger students as well. And I think that I'll be using that. Another summary that didn't quite fit. And we arrive here at Unit 5. As he's still asking questions, reflecting on what is going on in our school compared to the research and the suggestions in what we read, and what I would like to change in my teaching style, and also what we can look at changing as a school. And here we arrive at where we are today, page 57. Still plenty of room for the next couple weeks and any other strategies and ideas. I think this will be a good practice for us to go through and learn how to do it so that we can assign it to our students, but also we end up with a good resource. So there's my notebook.